Well, today there has been some major Formula 1 news. Some of it not that good, I think. Some of it pretty downright bad on Formula 1's part, but we'll get into it. Basically, the iconic circuit Spa-Francorchamps has got a multi-year extension. Apart from not for every year, because let's be honest, it's probably going to get replaced with some kind of Middle Eastern track that nobody likes, that they've spent a lot of money on to get the rights for that. And it does look like Franco Colapinto may actually be racing for Alpine next year, just not at the start. They're the two big stories. Let's jump in. So let's start with Spa, right? It just makes sense to, because that's probably the biggest news. It's confirmed basically that they have been extended now to the years 2026, 2027, 2029 and 2031. Obviously, auspiciously missed there is 2028 and 2030, so there's going to be 2 years where it's not being used. And first and foremost, I think that's pretty catastrophic for the historic nature of Formula 1. It's a little bit weird for me because I'm not really that bothered most of the time what track they race on. It's not the reason I watch F1 for that historic nature, but for a lot of people, F1 is steeped in history and tradition and stuff like that, and this kind of just throws it out again. Now, you might be thinking, why are they missing those 2 years? Well, as I alluded to right at the very start, that's probably because they're going to be doing an expansion into, let's assume, the Middle East. Now, it would be nice if we actually had a track in Africa, a race in Africa that could host a race. I think you could almost make a case that that would be worthwhile. But losing the iconic Spa for a Middle Eastern soulless race doesn't really make too much sense. I mean, it kind of does if you're all about money and you're not that bothered about the history of your sport and you're the people who get to decide which race goes where. Now, some of the Middle Eastern tracks probably aren't that bad. Some races have been good. But what do we have now? 4 of them: Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Abu Dhabi. I think a lot of people are just going to be angry about what this means for the sport. But I mean, it's not really a surprise to anybody, right? Formula 1 are kind of putting money ahead of what people want, probably. Although, the Middle Eastern countries obviously want it for various reasons. Some people might call it sport washing. Some people might call it a little bit worse than that. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong about the Middle East, obviously, but some of these countries' politics and the way that they deal with things haven't necessarily matched a lot of Westerners' kinds of values and morals. And, you can argue about that till you're blue in the face, but some people kind of see it as sports washing, right? I'm not really going to make a comment on that. It's not really that relevant for me in this moment. It's more just money overarching the actual desire of the competitors. I think probably a lot of the competitors would rather be racing in Spa, and the viewers, I think a lot of the viewers would probably prefer they'd be racing in Spa. And I've sort of gone on a bit of a rant there, but the plan probably is to rotate them, right? So the reason it's going off and then coming back and then going off and then coming back is because they obviously want to rotate the tracks. This will basically enable them to do different tracks, but not every single year. I think at this point they've probably peaked with the amount of races that they want to add. The calendar is getting more and more congested as it is. So the solution is to do this rotating thing so that they can get some tracks that are paying probably above price market odds for sport washing reasons or any other reason, just because they want that sport and they want the attention of having that sport in their country. I mean, one of the big worries for some people will be the fact that this could lead to the track just being removed full stop. Kind of feels like it's a precursor to that. Maybe it's easing it out, if you will. And if we're honest, Spa has given us some great races and probably a much better track than some of the ones in other places. I keep referring to the Middle East because I think that's the most egregious example, but there are other places where they're just throwing money at it. Kind of thinking about Las Vegas, for example. The money is taking priority, it feels, rather than interest from fans. I think one of the key questions will be what will happen with some of the other tracks now. Is Silverstone, Monaco, maybe on the chopping block? If I'm honest, I kind of hate Monaco. I really don't enjoy the weekend. It's kind of boring to me as a normal spectator, but I at least understand the history of why it's there. But if you were going to remove Eddie, I would be more on board with removing Monaco. I'm not suggesting they should, but I'd be more on board with it. Apparently, Eric Van Haren actually says that it will be replaced with another European circuit. But then what is that European circuit being replaced by? It might not be the case that the circuit is getting absolutely wrecked just for money. It might be a 2-step process, right? They move it for a European circuit. Well, the slot that European circuit would have already had now gets replaced by one of the Middle Eastern countries or Las Vegas kind of race. But I mean, Imola's going, Barcelona's out there, that might not be on there, and Zandvoort might not be there. I mean, Zandvoort kind of feels like that's just for Max, to be honest. I'm not really sure it's that interesting of a circuit, but Some people like it. Either way, the implications are not good for the sport, I think. This is one thing that they're doing with the sport that I think a lot of people wish they simply wouldn't. Let's keep the historic tracks. If they're not suitable tracks, they'll sure enough get rid. But Spa is, it's a good track. I think most actual fans would really prefer that over, say, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, Qatar, and the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Like, you know, to me, it's a sad moment. Moving on though, we do have news about Franco Colapinto. Now, there was an article talking about how he was possibly going to get a seat at Alpine, but that was from like some Argentinian publication. Not to discredit the Argentinian publications, but it, you know, it might have been heavily biased. But no, the race and other people now are talking about it, and it might actually happen. Apparently, Fabio Briatore was actually meeting with Franco, and he was like saying, yo, this is definitely possible, like, we are looking into this. But Fabio has also confirmed that Jack Doohan and Gasly will be the ones who start for Alpine in 2025. Now, the rumour is, and I'm not sure if it said in this article or elsewhere, but the rumour is that Jack Doohan's contract might only be for like 5 races, and they might revisit it as they go. So if I was Jack Doohan or even Gasly, but I can't imagine not Gasly, it's one of those situations where your performance might mean you are out. Because Colapinto is not going to get straight put into the driver's seat, I think, race 1, or at least it doesn't sound like that's the plan. He's probably going to be like a reserve driver. And then, if results go poorly for little old Jack, he'll be straight out on the chopping block. The Australian will be gone. Maybe another Australian outed mid-season, and possibly replaced by Franco Colapinto. This article from the race does actually say that, although Jack Doohan and Gasly will start in the start of the season, basically. And this in itself is kind of interesting, right? I mean, it does put a lot of pressure on Jack Doohan, let's be honest. I kind of feel bad for Jack, because, like, you know, you get put in and then you're getting news you might be ousted quite quickly, and then you get the additional pressure. It's not really a good environment for a rookie to come in and actually shine when you've got Franco Colapinto breathing down your neck, kind of like he's breathing down my neck right now. But obviously, you know, Franco Colapinto came in, parachuted into the Williams role last year, and, you know, let's be honest, did a reasonable job. I mean, Red Bull at one point were apparently looking at him, and then I think he crashed in a race, right, and apparently that like scuppered their chances. I don't know how fickle some teams are that you wouldn't expect a rookie to crash occasionally. You know, you're actually kind of looking at speed. But alas, it looks like Fabio Briatore, at least, is definitely interested in the Argentinian, and the Argentinian is hopeful to get the role, and maybe will be kind of like fingers crossing himself that the Australian Jack Doohan will not be having a good time. Must be a weird position to be in, like hoping that one of your team doesn't do well so that you get the role, but you're also like employed by that company. You're like, I really gotta, yeah, sure, Alpine, I want you to do well, but not Jack. Probably not Jack. No, but I really want Jack to do well, please. You know, come on, I would never wish ill. But yeah, very interesting news. 2 big stories for the day. I think a lot of people are simply going to look at the Belgian Spa-Francorchamps thing as being a cash grab. And let's be honest, even if it is temporarily replaced by a European circuit, that might be like a traditional circuit, it's probably going to get replaced by one of the well-paying races around the world. Not necessarily the Middle East, but obviously they're the archetypal ones, they're the ones that really stand out. But Las Vegas is the same kind of thing, right? I guess money talks, and it's talking very loudly right now. On the surface, I don't think a track should just be there because it's existed for a while. I think like new and interesting tracks could be on the calendar. I just think Spa is, you know, it's not like ancient or anything. It's a good track. It should stay on the calendar, let's be honest. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm very much interested in what you've got to say. Have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.